So today's agenda, we are going to go over having a quick overview of AOM administration module, kind of like a very high level. Going through demo of how to create site projects, demo how to add license file to AOM, add simple site configurations, or review, look through some of the configurations parameters that is utilized mostly, and suggest some parameters that I randomly use for managing the AOM side, and explain a little bit about the site analysis module and the project planning and tracking. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into a demo to the application itself. Here I have the HPE AOM. We don't have the HPE AOM 12.2.0. We had upgraded our version to 12.50, but it's pretty much similar to the 12.20 that you guys have. The only difference, with 12.50 and 12.2 that I see, the main difference is the web UI interface. So in the if you want to maintain the 12.5, I mean the UI web interface, you probably want to stay within the 12.20, because AOM does not, in 12.5, that module will be removed from the minor release, but it will come back in the major release, like AOM 13 or Octane. So here, to log into the site administration, you can directly go to the site administration module here and log into the site administration. So the site administration module allows AOM administrator to create and maintain projects, users, servers, site connections, license usage, parameters, and you can also create administrator from here, and also update the password or create the password here. I'm sure you are familiar with the site administration tool here. So the site project is where you actually create domains, create your projects from the site project tab. As you can see, if I scroll down into the specific projects, you have these middle panes for the project details. This is where you can actually select different functionality. So next is the send mail automatically is a functionality between where you can send users email within your projects, like notification email, any changes you want to change to send to the developer, or you have a workflow that if your status change from your defect, you can execute an email directly to developer or notify QA that the status has changed. So to do that, you would have to enable the send mail automatically, plus some of the configurations in the parameters to enable mail protocol and the SMTP server. The same as the project planning tracking here, checkbox, you can enable it for this specific project, because I'll come to the project planning tracking later on, but this is where you can actually enable and disable the functionality. So the project user is where you can maintain your users. You can add your users. You can add your users here, or you can add your user directly from the project customization page. There is a parameter that you can set to only allow the administrator to create user here. The project extension, this is very, very important in terms of providing extensibility features for your particular project. Let's say if you, like for this instance, I have this project, I have enabled the AOM lab extension functionality and performance testing. This allows my project to create certain functionality, certain features that allow users to create performance testing, create UFT test types, and allow to integrate with AOM and the lab management. Once you enable extension, you cannot disable them. Okay. So these are the few extensions available here. The ALM extension is the actual extension allow you to integrate with the HPE IDE connectors. And the application intelligence is where you have capabilities with AOI features. That's a separate extension that we're not going to cover this here. Okay. And the other one, the application models and enterprise integration is for related to SAP integrations extensions. So the lab extension and functionality here is what I choose for my automation testing and my performance testing. This would trigger the lab management module here, allow you to set up the lab management for your site, for your ALM site here. You can create a lab management users. The lab management module is separate module. It allows you to kind of like for a high level, it allows you to create to share licensing for performance testing, to share hosts that you assign a number of hosts created inside of lab management, where you can distribute between different users and share among your entire team and different teams as well. The site user is where you can create another administrator. This is where you this is the button here where you can create your a different site administrator or specific users to specific projects, and you can assign project details to the specific user by selecting this option here within this this project user tab. Pretty self-explanatory here. The site connections is pretty much a tab that displays all the connections to your ALM. So it allows you to monitor the user currently connected to your ALM server and which license that it use. The site analysis tab allows you to kind of like provide you information about your license usage. I think you can do that. I think you can assign by specific project. Let's say if all your Indian, India users are from specific projects, you can assign like 60 license to that particular project. So only that 60 user can use that number of license from like license assignment here. Specific project. You can assign specific license to specific project and specific users. So that will eliminate your like conflict between your users. I think the parameters, you can set this parameter to disconnect the other users. Let's say if they are inactively using ALM, they will be disconnected from ALM. Since the time zone is different, they can disconnect. Because sometimes the user leave it on as connect to the ALM license, so that prevent other users to connect to use the license. So that accumulate that license usage. So you want to specify that parameter to disconnect if this inactivity. To continue with this, so the server is actually where you want to disable and enable logging. So let's say if you currently have issues with one of your ALM issues or feature or functionality, and you contact support, and usually contact support usually wants to have a log, the debug log that is created from your ALM or you're from any other like functionality like the site administrator here and the project planning tracking here and the client log. So this usually, they would want you to change the log level to debug and send them the log file for troubleshooting. So this is where you would change that. So so this is the connection to your database. So here is your database here, right? You have anytime you make one connection or a query to specific report that connects to the database, it takes a connection. So sometimes database connections, the DBA prevent you from connecting. You know, they don't want a lot of connections to your database, to the database. So the administrator set it here to limit that mass connection to the database. If you're creating test cases or if you're running tests from your ALM module, that's not considered as connecting to a database. Within here, like here, you're connecting to one user, one session right here. So if you're changing a SQL Server to Oracle, you want to add the Oracle server here and then do a copy of your project to the database, to the Oracle databases. This is like a kind of like a best practice when you do upgrade or changing your database from SQL to Oracle or vice versa. So here's the site configuration. The site configuration do not show all the site configuration here. So these are the mail. So some of the parameter here, as you can see, the mail, it's related to the email functionality, where you have to set the email protocol, if the server host and the server port, and the SMT admin mail here, and some of the authentications here. These all the parameters are related to that email functionality. The one thing that I wanted to mention before was that one, the allow web UI access, and the web. This is the web test UI management parameter. This is a new kind of like a beta features that they are trying to do in 12.2 for a test management module within the UI web module. Within the version 12.2, you have the access to the UI web access, and it's only for requirements and defects. But if you add this web UI test management parameter, then a test management module will enable within the UI web access. And the site, if you go to this link here, it has a site. It lists out all the site parameters. This has it doesn't include every site parameters, but it includes most of them. One of the auto logout here. This is the one parameter that we talk about that disconnects users for a period of time if they become inactive. Mm-hmm. So this is the parameter. As you can see, this parameter list has the detailed descriptions and the default value. I would really urge administrators to review this document. This provides a lot of useful information. But now, within the newer version, HPE has created a web portal that allows you to access it right here. That has different version of HPE ALM. Yes, you can see 12.53, 12.50, and 12.2. This has a very, very useful information. Okay, so going next, I'll probably go to the site analysis. Site analysis, like we talk about, this allow you to monitor the license usage to determine what type of license are you using and how many numbers of license to provide you like a future planning for your future to see how many licenses you should obtain for your upcoming year or for your team. Mm-hmm. You can see here the license number is fully usage here. Community licensing. This doesn't show the area and the global. It shows as functionality wise, because the full license has the capability to enable all module types. Performance Center only allow you to enable to access the Performance Center module, like performance testing module. Business component, additional requirements. So these all relates to module like modularized for your license. Next is the project planning. The project planning and the tracking, this is only enabled in the HPE ARM editions. So these features allow you to track and plan your releases. Let's say you have a scope of release items that is within this release that you're going to define, right? You can set the scope, you can set the date and time, you can set the milestone, and you can also set the KPI in the indicators performer to provide you also provide a list of within the progress of within the scorecard, allow you to quickly check the progress of your releases.
Okay.
For example here.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example here, let me log into ALM, okay, and show you a quick just a quick of how it looks within ALM once you have it configured. So here's my sample project that I have, as you can see in my requirement module. You have project planning configured within your project customizations. You can see from the release module here. Track down your releases. Release 10.5. Here I have release scope item. I have the item defined for this within this release, and I have the 4 scope item combined for this release, 10.5, and I have for each of these scope item, I have these requirements, test sets, all associated to this item, to this scope, right? Okay. You can add and browse and add to it. The master plan give you like a Gantt chart of where you at with each the schedule, like within the Gantt chart, to see where you at each scope item. Also, it provides you a scorecard view that has KPI configure, allowing you to visualize directly into your project and the progress of how far and what is going on within your project releases here. See, I have my tasks covered. You can trigger alert the KPI to be red when you have a specific percentage, your defect, your severity 1. As you can see, you can calculate and customize all these within the project planning. This allow project manager or a QA manager to quickly visualize the status of the project and releases. And the project and the site configuration here is the actual schedule that you can schedule to run the calculations to grab compile all the data that relates to your releases and provide you that information within the HPE ALM here. Or you can manually run it for that particular project directly here from the site project. Project detail, and you can run it here.
Okay.
Or you can run it now. This will bypass the schedule time for your site. There is a documentation that HPE has for best practices regarding how to configure the project planning and tracking.
Okay.
You can access it from the URL here as well. Go through the best practices guide. There is a bunch of best practices guide that you have, and you can see the project planning and the best practice guide right here.
Mm-hmm.
You can download and use it. So that's pretty much the overview of HPE ARM site administration.